So we will call this meeting of November 1st, 2021 of the Parks Commission to order. And item number one is the call to order. Item number two is the roll call. Take roll.
Ashley, Steve,
Here.
Josh here, Monica,
Here.
Kelly,
Here.
Amy, Nick.
Here. Okay, thank you, Josh. Item number three, approval of minutes of September 7th, 2021. I'll need a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll motion. I'll second.
Anything to add to those minutes or changes? Okay, all in favor, we will signify with an aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Minutes approved. Audience items not on the agenda will be discussed at this time if you wish to speak and have contacted the city clerk by 5 p.m. then we'll go ahead and have you do so. Is there anyone here wishing to speak? Okay, great. Item number 5, review of regional park progress. Jason, I'm going to guess that's you.
Yes. So those of you that were able to meet with me prior to tonight, thank you. I know I didn't quite get everybody, but that's what tonight's for. So before you over here, we have two concepts, one that you've seen and one that you have not seen. So the smaller is what you have seen. That was the result of the master planning process with the final product there. And a little bit of intel on that. So Confluence came back with that, and that would be achieved over 6 phases. And it comes in with a price tag of just about $25 million. So we have, at the September work session with council, that was brought up, and council gave us some feedback, including one where Phase 1 of the master plan, not glorious, it's the grading, it's the infrastructure, came back with a price tag of $10 million. And there wasn't a whole lot to show for it. There was some soccer, some other amenities like the splash pad and the trail that goes around. And the biggest feeling from that meeting with council was, is there a different approach where we can cut some fat other places and offer almost like a diet version of the full thing as phase 1. So we went back to the drawing board, and that's what you see on the left right there is what I'm going to call regional park diet. So this would replace phase 1 of just some soccer, a splash pad, and a trail, and you would get everything that you see there. We were able to. Now, I should say, what you see on the left would now just be phase 1. We would still get to completion of what's on the right. So yeah, nothing's going away. It's just that's what we would get in our first shot. And we were able to cut off about $9 million. So the project on the left has a value of about $16 million. So 6 more than the $10 million that originally phase 1 was. Some of the bigger omissions that I would say is the community center and its designated parking lot. That saved roughly $5 million right there. You can see that a few concession areas and playgrounds were omitted in this first. That brought back savings of about $1.5 million. But you can see we still did have a centrally located one in the baseball complex here. So we would have that concession area, modern restrooms as well. So in the interim, we would be looking at probably a portable restroom situation for soccer and softball for emergency situations. The other that you really can't see on either of these is field lights. So field lights are included, but those would be omitted in this latest concept, and that saves almost $2 million. And so those were the big ones that got us a savings of almost $9 million. So looking at a $16 million project, as of right now, the city has been able to put in just about $4 million or a quarter of the total. Looking other places, we would we've come up with naming rights for fields, structures that in a best case scenario could net another $3 million. We're also talking with some fundraisers too, of doing like a community pledge to try to get household dollars as well. And then there would be recognition at the park of those that did donate. Obviously, myself, city leadership will be very aggressive with grants. And really at this point, we're looking at all ways that we could get alternative revenue to make this realistic. Right now, the city's stance on the R word, a referendum, is that one is not planned. We would like to see what we can do with alternate means first. That may be revisited at a later date to provide final dollars in if necessary. The timeline for this would be spring 24 construction starts. And then, really it just depends on how the fundraising goes. It's always possible to bump that up if we have a really great fundraising campaign. But yeah, we'll see what that nets us. I know, again, 5 of you I was able to talk to. Kelly, Amy, this might be kind of new, what's on the left to you guys. But yeah, if anyone up there has questions for myself or Dave, coming from those council work sessions as to why we kind of pivoted, really it was just more people being serviced immediately with more amenities being brought up. So hopefully there's more community buy-in if there's something for everybody.
I just wanted to point out a couple of things on the scaled down version that I think are really important. The infrastructure for the lights and plumbing and stuff will already be put in. So that is not going to need to be like trenched later. It's just that the actual physical structures will not be installed yet. The other thing that I want to point out is that the central hub concession stand that will be located baseball will be about the size and proximity of Holiday Park in West Des Moines. So if you're familiar with how far you have to walk from the baseball fields at Holiday Park or from the far softball fields at Holiday Park to their main concession stand, that's about the distance. So it's really not a huge walk. I think one of the hardest things that is currently not on here for Little League as well as soccer is that there is not storage. And that makes things a little bit tricky because in our current space that there is storage available. So one of the questions I asked was, what if the clubs or the Little Leagues or whatever fundraised for their own storage building, for their own, amenities of whatever? That's still on the table. So those are options too. But the last thing I want to mention, I know you glazed over it really quickly, but some of the naming rights for some of the facilities are very affordable. I was delighted that there is a range that goes all the way from, $15,000 all the way up to $250,000. So if there is a group that's interested in purchasing naming rights as a foundation or as a legacy of someone who maybe was influential in the community, I do think that it is attainable for individuals, and those individuals will have naming rights on their structure, but there will also be some sort of recognition at some point of those people that or parties that contribute in some way, shape, or form. So I thought it was a very creative way of, for lack of a better term, giving more people their way. Because there is a really, really big demand for what this park has available to them.
So, Jason, I would just ask the question. We've seen A, we've seen B. Is there a C?
Not at the moment. No, so I mean, what you see here on the left, that would become the defunct phase 1, and all of the things that were omitted, those would be brought in time, whether it's through items that I can handle within my budget, our 5-year living, breathing CIP, things like that. And then also, if we were fortunate enough that, a donor were to come forward to make those things happen faster. So like I said, we will still end up with the concept on the right. But yeah, this is kind of where we're going. I mean, this is a big project, a lot of stakeholders involved, a lot of dollars. So it's not an easy process. It does take time, and it just takes time to make something this big and something that expensive. So we want to make sure we do it the right way.
Do you have a sense of how long that phase one will take to one construction season, or is it longer?
Sure. So I think a lot of that depends on, conditions, how soon they can get in. I hate to throw out timelines because if I'm not correct, I'm going to get skewered. If you saw something spring of 24, hopefully you would see use of almost all of it sometime in 26. Obviously, once they pave a trail, you can use that, but you have to let grass, germinate seed, and you have to stay off it for a while to make sure it takes and the roots develop. So some of it will be usable much sooner than other pieces.
I know you met with some of the other resource public groups, soccer, Little League. Little League baseball, softball was fine with it. How did soccer and some of those others take?
I think everybody sees it for the big picture, that there's a reason why we're doing this. I think most people would like to see this with a more sense of urgency. But honestly, when it comes to, having that amount of dollars to start the project is the biggest hurdle. So, yes, understanding, but wishful that it could be sooner would probably be the general consensus.
So that was the feedback that we gave for Little League is, if you're relying a lot on people donating today, knowing that it's 4 or 5 years out, they might be like, my kids aren't going to play on it. Why would I donate? So. Yeah.
What is kind of the next steps for communicating and ramping up public buy-in and excitement?
Yeah, so, internally we have a very detailed schedule of grants that we'll be going after. And I think the next piece, probably the most important piece, would be education. So for the calendar year of 22, myself and city manager Chelsea Huseman are planning maybe a monthly public meeting, just kind of open door, come on in if you can. We'll kind of have a small presentation that talks about the process, where we're at, where hopefully we get to, and a lot of Q&A. So hopefully just a lot of education for the public, and hopefully dispelling any rumors or misinformation that are out there. And then, of course, I think fundraising will, some sort of official campaign would also kick off very early 22 as well.
Yeah, you should hear something about it at the beginning. You said beginning of next year. We just want to make sure that all the information is there. Make sure we just don't haphazard go into it, but here's what it is, here's where we're going, and here's how we're going to do it. In the past, we've maybe done a little bit disjointed, and I was involved in that, so I'm speaking to myself here. But just to get all everything before we do that. So.
We also had it available, I know you know this, Monica, but we also had it available at the Four Seasons, or at the Fall Fest, and we had quite a few people come by and look at it, and we received positive feedback for doing it this way instead of doing it in a more phased approach. The other thing that people were really delighted about, and Ken, it's timely that you're here today, a lot of people were really excited that there was so much naturescape that was there. I had multiple people ask, well, how many trees are you going to cut down to make this part? And I said, actually, we're adding trees to a landscape that already has had the trees cut down. So a lot of people were really excited about the idea of taking advantage of the natural wetlands that were already there. And so
a majority of this, as it is row crop.
Yep.
At the moment, so.
You don't need anything from us, do you?
Nope, just kind of an update where if people ask you as Parks Commission members, you're equipped with the latest and greatest.
Any other questions?
Will we have access to these images to actually share?
Yes,
With
so
people?
also part of the greater campaign would be a much greater online presence. So we're working on that right now for,
I know I've had conversations with people.
Yeah.
And this is just so hard to explain the scope of all the things we're gonna try and cram into this, not small space, but
yeah, 57 acres goes by pretty fast when you start putting things in there. It's kind of amazing.
yes, and just being able to show people that ask what the plan is, I think is gonna go a long way.
All right, thank you. So you're still up though, because you got number 6, which is the plans for Lost Lake Park.
Yeah, for the commission's consideration tonight is my recommended concept of the play equipment at Lost Lakes. So I'll preface this with material costs are high right now, so our original budget didn't quite go as far as I would have liked, and unfortunately I think prices will only continue to go up for the foreseeable future. So getting something locked in now will save us dollars going forward, and it also gets us in the queue that we can get this project, hopefully, shovels in the dirt, March, April, with whatever kind of winter we have. So in front of you are a few different, schematics, whatever you want to call it. The first would be kind of a rendering of what it would look like. And there's a few things on here that aren't visually correct, but I wanted to point out that is not the color scheme that I would select with the bright oranges. And the shape, and they had to do this with their program, but it won't be a perfect rectangle. We are going to use what Lost Lakes Park gives us. It may be an odd shape, but with the approach of like Lost Lakes Park, a non-traditional shape, like a body of water, is actually kind of what we're going for. So the safety surfacing that you see there is also just a limitation of their program, and it shows the old-fashioned wood chips. We're going with the most modern safety surfacing of the poured in place. That is a continuous pouring of 2 layers. Underneath is actually the cushion, and then on top is kind of the protective, and then also the decorative. So what we're planning is, again, a play on the lake, where almost maybe we have a ring of green on the outside representing the grass, and then on the inside is a bluer. So it really gives you the concept of you're at a lake. The playgrounds would then be appropriate complement shades of blue, brown, green, one called iced coffee. Lord knows what that'll be. I'm assuming a brown, but how that's different than brown, I don't know. But yes, so we will have a structure on site that is ADA compliant. It would have learning panels throughout for just not play, but also play of the mind. It is age appropriate for 2 to 12. And it does have natural shade. Part of the structure will act as shade. I found that very important. And it has a capacity of 75 kids, which is actually on the higher end of equipment. So that would certainly be the focal point of the playground. Some of the accessories would be a 2-bay swing set with 4 units being able to be in that. 3 spring toys, kind of what we have on the square. There's like a spaceship and something else. Well, playing with the Lost Lakes theme, we would have a fish and a turtle. And then we would have kind of a traditional rocker that's kind of like a teeter-totter, but on a spring, meant for that 2 to 5 age. And the piece that I'm honestly most excited about is you can kind of see that merry-go-round looking thing. That's actually kind of a new twist on it. It's just an in-ground spinner. So it would be flush with the safety surfacing. No 6-inch lip of death. If you've ever been on an old merry-go-round, that's where you get hurt. So this would sit level with the ground, and it's an all-inclusive spinner. So I'm really excited to have that offering here. That there is a spot designated in there for anybody that may rely on a wheelchair. They would be able to enjoy that as an all-inclusive amenity.
Are there other reachable items for charities?
Sure. So on ground level, I believe there's 3. So mostly it would be the, I'll call it the playscapes. But then, yeah, the transition area, being ADA compliant, it's a matter of a few inches. So it would be possible to enjoy more of the structure than just ground level.
Is there a path, an accessible path from the sidewalk to the play structure? Or
That's
does it cover-
that's one thing that we're gonna mess with when it comes time to pour the concrete, is that with the shape that we're envisioning, it may abut the sidewalk, being almost like a continuation. But if that doesn't work, yes, there would be a sidewalk extension to make it accessible.
I have one question about the slides. We have a couple of parks in town where the slides actually face south and they become unusable
Oh,
because
the heat of the
heat
day.
of the day. Do we know what direction, especially this 2-section bay of slides, will face? Or is that just something you can make a note about?
Sure. So as and sorry, let's see. You've got the generated concept. You've got the zoomed
I'm
in,
actually looking at the blueprint.
the blueprint of the entire park.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be oriented. Let's see. It's kind of funky because that park kind of sits at an angle, and it
Yeah,
depends on
I'm
how
looking
we
specifically at
position.
this feature
Yeah.
right here.
So I believe that will be more facing north.
Okay, perfect.
Yes. Yes. Yes, whereas like the swings would be more on the south side,
Okay.
where the trail comes in from the Lost
Yep.
Lakes neighborhood.
Is this a different equipment provider than the city's used before?
Yes, so I did go out for competitive bids, and this is a company called Sterling West, out of middle of Nebraska. But no, so they were a joy to work with, and they were able to work within the confines of our budget.
It's nice to get some different variety too. Kind of the same play concepts, but
Sure.
a little bit different.
Yeah.
So, what in this whole scheme here would be the item that would appeal most to the older kids? Would it be the swing sets? A swing set?
When you say older kids,
Like
Steve, are you
said
talking
this is 2 to 12.
2 to 12?
The equipment to me looks like it's focused on really young kids.
Sure.
Yeah, I was
So-
thinking the same thing. It doesn't look like there's much elevation to it. It looks really, like
Yeah.
the slides are really short. That even a 11, 12-year-old would be like down it twice and be done.
Mhm. I think that there is a little bit more of a difference. Let's see. I don't think it's showing it as well as it should, but there is a little bit more height in what I would call the 2 to 5 versus the 5 to 12 section of it. But yeah, I mean, the part with the tri-slide shoes, the pent climber, some of the other, the climbing wall section itself, and then the swings is probably what I would envision
Looks
the
like
preteens using.
the centerpiece, the bridge, and the area where the slides come out are 60 inches, so
Yes.
5 feet.
So I guess they would be longer slides than steeper slides.
Have you maxed your budget?
Excuse me?
Have you maxed your budget?
We're at budget.
That's just how long that section is. That's not necessarily how tall it is.
I think
Is that
those,
the height?
That's the height.
Is that the height? Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, 16, 15, yeah.
We haven't had a 12-year-old kid in a while, but I don't remember them really going down slides that much anyway. I'm not saying,
Well,
it's
and
been
that's,
10
and that's my
years.
point.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's probably what yours is as well. You get a 12, even a 13-year-old, they're not going to have any use for the park. I think is kind of
Besides
what you're
green
going
space,
with,
right?
unless there was something more in there for.
I don't know what you would,
Yeah, it's hard to design playground for
smash ball, they can play all
Something
sorts of
larger.
other things in the green space, but yeah, to your point, Josh, I know what you're saying. It's pushing 12,
I mean, my 12-year-old wouldn't want to do any of that.
No, but I think the population there, though, if I'm correct, in that area would be more in the age below 10 to, I don't live over there before, I've been told anyway, but yeah, my 12-year-old wouldn't either, and I guess that's what I was seeing. They can use the green space around there and do other things. I'd love to see a hoop in here, so, at some point as well. That would be a really great addition, and we've talked about that in the past, so I think
I can bring this up. I was going to bring it up at the end, but I did also receive a private donation we used to install a Gaga ball pit at Lost Lakes as well. So, yes.
I will also say, only because I've gone through this with the school system, usually when they are giving you your age range for 2 to 12 or 2 to 5, it's actually for insurance purposes. And so they're basically saying it's safe for this age range. So like when you go 2 to 5, it's 48 inches or lower. And when you go up to 12, then your structure can be up to 60 inches. And then when you post your signage outside the park, it has that information. So I don't know that it is of interest for children 2 to 12, but safe for children 2 to 12. I don't know if that's this company as well. I just know that's how it works in schools.
There's different safety regulations for the different age groups.
Yeah.
But lots of times they're separated, so just out of curiosity, like, you'll have a younger children's area that's physically separated from an older children's. Just out of curiosity, how did you kind of navigate that and decide on one consolidated structure?
Sure. Honestly, budgetary restraints came in. Putting in 2 structures more expensive than putting in a singular one.
The reason I asked you if you'd maxed your budget is because I thought one way possibly to appeal to the older kids might be monkey bars. Something that provides some exercise potential for
Sure.
the older kids. But if your budget is maxed, then that's a different story.
Yeah, kind of like what's at Leonard Park. It's got the pyramid thing that they kind of climb on.
So
or-
some sort of climbing.
Yeah, something
structure.
climbing. I know there's a park in Ankeny that's got it's kind of like a zip line
Yeah.
where they can just hang on and swing, and it's right by my in-laws' place, and all the kids, all ages, enjoy that.
I'm very familiar with that
Okay.
piece
Yeah,
of
maybe
equipment.
you could swap out some of the rockers or the rider things, since we have quite a few of those around, with something else to kind of offset the costs. I think that spinner exclusive orbit, that's gonna be really hot.
I think that.
Not
Yeah,
really
I like that.
all kids will like that, just because
Yeah.
it's something different.
Yeah.
None of the other parks have.
No, I can certainly go back and talk with our provider here. In the essence of timing and saving money, I can get 2021 pricing until November 9th, which is next Tuesday. If I'm unable to, by then, everything 22 pricing will go into effect, and we're looking at about $6,000. So, I guess moving forward tonight, your call. If you'd like me to go back if you were to recommend with the addition of a climbing structure being added, so I can hopefully get this on the agenda for next Monday, so council can approve spending this money, and hopefully
Do you know
saving
how
about
much the
$6,000.
rockers are?
Yeah, I can tell you each of those spring-loaded items, they do vary a little bit, 1,200 to 1,800. I believe the fish and the turtle would be about 1,200 apiece, and the dual rocker is about 1,800. So that would free up 40.
$5,000.
It might be enough to put in, probably not a rope climber that we've got at Leonard. Those are more expensive than you think, but more of a traditional or modern version of monkey bars with some undulation. There's certainly options out there for those.
Are
And it
those,
looks like you would have the space too if you take out that fish, you would have that space there on the other side, in theory.
Yeah, that would open up some fall space,
I didn't need it.
where something could go.
Well, and potentially, maybe we don't need 3 slides there altogether. Maybe we could save some money by taking out a slide.
Well, that is a,
Probably one modular
Yeah.
unit.
exactly, that is a structure.
Like a tinker toy.
Yes, it's, what you see is what you get.
Okay, so what I hear the commission saying is we would opt for a climbing structure of some sort that targets older children, whether it be monkey bars, a rope climbing device, a zip line feature, something that would be targeted towards an older population over the spring rockers. Is that accurate?
I think it's probably a wise move, especially because all the young kiddos that live there now are all gonna be aging, you know,
Yeah.
in the very near future. I mean, I guess I don't know how the playground, equipment provider, if they can turn it around, enough, get it still priced under 2021 pricing, time for approval next week.
But then
We
would
do it
still
not
have
to
vote.
exceed, we do it not to exceed,
Yeah.
it's your budget number, and then using that, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Josh, but using that to leverage then the potential of having that other structure in
We
there.
can still move and vote to recommend tonight. We just need it to be a very loose movement, or
Approve the funding at what it is,
correct.
knowing there might be some adjustments to the plan.
Correct, yep,
So just word our
just
our
not to
motion to approve funding
not to exceed,
not to exceed
203. is what it's budgeted.
203,000, and then we can kind of go from
yeah. And then between now and, well, anytime actually, I mean, it could be evolving, however, it needs to be as long as it's not done any more than that.
I'll get on the phone tomorrow.
We can start with that, so a little bit
Yeah.
too, maybe, you know, so.
Can someone move? make a
I motion to approve funding up to 203,000 for the concept listed here for Lost Lake Park. So funding up to the 203,000, knowing that the actual pieces might be different, but the funding would still stay the same.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We recommend
Thanks, guys.
203,000
Thank you.
for Lost Lakes. All right, agenda item number 7 is considering Leonard Park tree planting. Is that you, good sir?
I guess I'll take the floor on that one.
All right.
Starter, I'll jump in when I need to.
Okay, my name's Ken Morris, I'm the Polk City tree guy, semi-professional title, and I'm semi-retired. I'm also the chairperson of Polk City Arbor League, the chairperson of the tree board, which means like you, I'm highly paid volunteer for the city. Before I ask for your permission regarding Leonard Park, I'd back up just real quick back to Lost Lakes to say, if you are at all interested, and I don't know about ADA compliance and all that, in some big boulders to put up there, I know from personal experience, kids love to sit on boulders, and even adults like to sit on boulders, and I would be willing to donate a couple if you're interested in that. And the long-term maintenance cost is pretty much zero. Okay. The reason that I'm here before you tonight is request your permission to plant trees at Leonard Park. I don't think that any of you, and the only one might be Josh, I don't think any of you were on the Parks Commission when Leonard Park was first planted. And to go back at the time that we, the Arbor League, planted trees in Leonard Park, after the initial planting, we wanted to plant some more, and there was some push toward putting a parking lot in Leonard Park with the access off of Parker Boulevard. I pushed back real hard against that in interest of maintaining the green space. It was a classic case of paved paradise to put up a parking lot. Most of you are too young to remember that song. That was a classic case of paving paradise.
Good news, Sheryl Crow redid it, so a lot of people in our generation know that song.
Okay, so I'm back to Judy Collins stuff. It was paved paradise to put up a parking lot, and I fought real hard against that. But at the time, I made the commitment that I wouldn't push any further toward planting trees at Leonard Park in that area until any decision was made regarding a parking lot or any other development at Leonard Park. I think that the parking lot idea is pretty well gone. But anyway, so to go to where we're at now, Jason and I were out at Pat Miner's tree place out by Granger a while back, the tree that we're going to plant on the square. And he's got some beautiful maple trees out there that are a hard maple variety that are beautiful red color in the fall. Unfortunately, by the time any of them get here, they'll probably have lost their leaves, but they'll be beautiful next year. But the tree coming to the square and the ones that I'm proposing for Leonard Park, and we're talking about 4 trees at Leonard Park to be kind of follow a little bit of the curvature of the sidewalk. And I think we ended up about 20 feet off of the sidewalk roughly, and it maintains the maximum amount of green space that we possibly can. We're in a very tight zone of where we can plant due to the utilities up there, unless we come deep into the park and sacrifice a lot of the green space. So anyway, we met with Mike Schulte this morning and got his clearance to go ahead and plant these 4 trees up there. But that's what I'm here to ask your permission for, is to have 4 about 20-foot tall, 6-inch caliper maple trees spaded in at Leonard Park, funded by the Parks Commission with a donation from the Polk City Arbor.
So you're talking about 20 feet off of the Parker sidewalk, not 20 feet off of the path that runs through.
Correct, off of the Parker Boulevard sidewalk, so we're following that curvature. So as you're coming in Parker Boulevard, coming north, as you come up over the hill there by Linear Park, it's going to be just a beautiful, line of trees coming up here at some point in time. And as you're coming the other way, they're also going to match the sidewalk line there, and you'll see those trees much more so than the park area. But the trees that we've got 50-foot spacing on the trees, so you'll still have lots of visibility into the park, from security and so forth, with a beautiful red canopy. And I was thinking about this at home, and if in the future, if there's ever any decision to do something like put a parking lot in or anything else, the trees can be removed. Trees can be removed in the name of progress. I push back hard against that, but I know that progress sometimes requires tree removal. So they're not nearly as permanent as an in-ground pool or anything like that. But anyway, so they're on 50-foot spacing, 4 trees, funded by the city and the Arbor League, and that's my request. Are there any questions? Do you have any interest in putting a parking lot up there?
No.
Good, thank you.
Well, it'd be nice to have some place on the streets to park, but there's not a place at Leonard Park.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry?
It'd be nice to have a place around there where you could park,
Oh,
but there's not a good place at the park.
there is not. I mean, short of having that parking lot right off of Parker Boulevard, and people park on West Washington and walk across, which is a weak link. There's also the tunnel that goes underneath, which doesn't get used much, and they can park on the cul-de-sac, not on the cul-de-sac, but on Maple Drive. It's intended to be a community park, and people walk to the park, and it does get used a lot with limited people having to drive. So, short of putting a parking lot off of Parker Boulevard, that can't. And I just think that was a bad idea for a lot of reasons. I'd rather plant 4 trees if you left.
And just out of curiosity, what maple species are those?
They're a cultivar, and I don't remember. I'd have to ask Pat. They're not a soft maple like a silver maple. They're not your standard red sunset maple. They cultivar trees all the time, and they're a cultivar of a cultivar of a cultivar, and they rename them all the time. The best I can tell you is that they're beautiful color, and they're hard.
Autumn blaze
They're along
derivation of some sort.
They're along that line, something like that. But the color on them right now, a week ago, was just spectacular reds. Like I say, if we move forward with this, I anticipate that this will get done in the very short future, like next week. And there may or may not be leaves on at this point.
I'd like to just chime in on my side. It's a little twofold. One, anytime somebody like the Arbor League comes at you with financial assistance to make my tree budget go further, I'm very appreciative of that. And then obviously this guy with his tree knowledge and just he's the tree guy, right? And so,
Semi-professional.
yeah, semi-professional.
It's been that way for a
Long time. Semi-retired for a long time.
But
14 years.
I gotta also say, it was very good working with Ken, and it wasn't too much back and forth. I enjoy working with Ken. I think we work well together, but I think we found a spot where the trees will serve their purpose while also we're maintaining a good swath of green space. That was one of my big things. Was I've seen when West Elementary comes over and uses that, they really use it. So I think we're really getting two birds, one stone here. We're going to beautify it and maintain some green space.
So I would just share with Ken and the board and Jason and Dave that I put some photographs on the Community Visioning website last week. One of them showed the landscaping that's now been done around the Leonard Park sign. And the very first comment that came back on that was, it would sure be nice to have some trees along Parker. So
Yes, sir.
I think I'm going to put that on the Community Visioning website, and I think I will be a hero.
You take the credit.
That's like 3 trees.
I'm good with that. Take the credit.
So thank you. It's
You're
so
very
timely.
welcome.
Josh, did you have a
Glad to
question?
do what I can.
I didn't know.
I've got a question for you, Ken, but we can talk afterwards.
All right, can I get a motion to approve the planting of 4 trees along Parker Boulevard at Leonard Park?
So moved.
Second? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign? All right.
Okay, and I have something more, if I might. I'm here to ask your permission on that one. The next one is with this, we are also probably, budget permitting, going to plant a buckeye tree in Linear Park. Linear Park is the park south of Leonard Park on Parker Boulevard, and it'll be back a ways from the road, but buckeye trees are also just really stellar trees, and it would be a beautiful location to put a buckeye tree in. The last thing being that we're planting 3 trees tomorrow at Simmer Park, which have been donated by Romeo Grimes. That's tomorrow at 1 o'clock if anybody's interested either. And I'll just back up. The Arbor League also is responsible for all of the trees that are currently planted at Leonard Park and Linden Park from a grant project that we did, Trees for Kids grant through the DNR a number of years ago. I don't know how many years ago.
A lot of trees though.
Is the Buckeye tree something that's already been purchased, or is that coming out of the city parks budget?
It's a combination of, it's a combination of his money and my money, Arbor League money, and no, it has not already been purchased. I'm just hoping to get it in with the money that he and I have got available for this planting project, because it will also be a spaded in tree. And,
Okay.
and so from the guy that owns the spade, he'd rather just get
Do it all.
one big project and get them all done, so.
But we don't need to vote to recommend that then, because it's just a part of your budget, right?
Correct.
It's awesome. Thank you so much for your work, Jen.
Very well, thank you. Glad to help you out, Steve.
All right, cost recovery report about Q3.
Yep, so last 3 months, July, August, September. You can see here the youth programming came in just over 100%, so I'm pretty ecstatic on that. Some of the ones that you can see here, the 2 summer fun camps, the reason those were so in the red, I ran those below the minimum just to increase awareness being the first year. So I took a calculated risk there. But it worked out okay with some others of the youth variety doing better. And down here, I would just like to show an example, the All-Star Sports Camp coming in at 216. So really, what attributes to that is the overhead for something like that is so low. It's just equipment that my department owns, and we use it for different purposes. There was no transportation needed in that. We met at the sports complex, and that's where we held camp every day. But also it was priced just about right. That was a 15-hour class. Yeah, we met 8:30 to 3:30. And when we're talking about the contact hour, how much a person paid to be there for an hour, it was just over $4 per hour. So, that's just one of those. They're not very common, but you do have some that it just lends itself to good cost recovery that helps other things within that demographic. So, but yeah, no others. There's some fluctuation there of ones that the tennis and the art that should come in over 100%. And then some that you are okay subsidizing, like those camps that have a greater community good. So no, I'm very happy with just over 100% cost recovery for Q3. And then on the back, adult programs, we did our first co-ed softball run by the city, and then also our fall bags league held at the Legion. Again, that came in at 121%, and that's right in line with where we want adults, coming in over 100%. And then down on the bottom, this is driving me kind of crazy, and I'm trying to fix it, but I just haven't hit that knack yet with our seniors. So, I offered a few in there, and neither of them had enough to go. So everybody was refunded that was there. So that is one where I'm kind of reevaluating how I'm getting those programs out. I have met with the folks that enjoy lunch at the community center Tuesdays and Thursdays. There's just very few of them. Last time I was there was only 7. So I'm not getting a big audience when I'm going over there. And so yeah, that's kind of where I'm trying to concentrate my efforts in a better way to communicate with that demographic.
So I actually have 2 things on this that are just things that people have reached out to me about. A couple people asked if the co-ed softball league for next year could have a double elimination tournament. That was one question that was asked. And if the, as Greg Bell calls it, the opportunity bracket could maybe self-umpire to keep costs low.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was one suggestion that someone had. The other suggestion that someone had about senior programming is the potential to partner with the area, either nursing care or retirement facilities to offer it up to multiple people. And the potential of having like a group outing where maybe we have a liaison on the board that is a senior. Obviously, we all are pretty young and have a lot of youth interests in mind. And I think that it could be of benefit for us to target either someone who would be maybe not wanting to serve on the Parks Board, but would still be a voice.
Sure.
So I don't know if that would be, if we have someone that could reach out to, or
Sure.
I don't actually know what any of that looks like. That was just a suggestion I was given.
That's a good one.
Any other questions on the fiscal report? All right, great. Reports and particulars. Have anything?
Nothing specific. I think just for those watching and here to remember to vote tomorrow. It's always important to make sure we get out and vote. I know that's one of the things that we're not particularly good at in Polk City. I think we had maybe, I won't put a percentage out, very minimal voting percentage typically. And so it's just important to get out and vote for school board. And the city officials too, but there's really, I think they're uncontested. So, but just to get out and vote is important for everything else. Otherwise, Chase did a good job with I apologize for missing the last meeting. Just had normal stuff last meeting, unfortunately, but I hadn't seen this. So I assume that's what's going to be coming to us this coming Monday. So I really like that as an option for the exact, for the reason Jason mentioned is people can then see it. I think Josh mentioned it too. You can see what's going up, and it's much easier to sell something when you can see that vision and say, oh, so they're going to put lights. Oh yeah, I could put lights on those. I could sponsor those. It's just much easier to sell something that's already there. So I really like that. And the city is, the council is 100% in on this project, obviously, with the money that we're setting aside. from CIP and some from reserves, and just really wanting this to take. So thanks to all your hard work doing that, and the hard work's actually to come. But this is a great start, so appreciate that. That's all I really have.
Just going off of your votes, there is also a couple of land use and water conservation issues that are on the ballot as well. So if you go to the Polk County Elections Board, you can see a mock ballot of absolutely everything that's up there and click on any links to see what those different things are. And there's a bunch of judges, and it's not just city and
It's
school
not. No,
board.
I just
So-
didn't know exactly what else was. Just kidding.
But
out
there's
to
some
vote
park
is
stuff
Eagles.
on there is what I'm trying to get across at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Thank
So, anything else for you?
Yeah, Ken stole my thunder, but yeah, Earl May and Grimes is donating some trees to be planted at Doc Simmer Memorial Park. We're doing that tomorrow at 1 p.m., just to echo what he said. So thank you to Earl May and Grimes for thinking of us as they look to, reach out to communities in Grimes and just a little bit further out. I will also be in attendance at the Quick Start grand opening to accept a donation on behalf of Quick Start to Des Moines Parks and, not Des Moines, Polk City Parks and Recreation in the amount of $1,000. I don't know why that just rolled off of that.
Well, you just said and beyond the Des Moines metro area.
Okay, that could be it.
Yeah.
So no, I'm happy to be there, and I'm really happy that they're just in town, but they're already providing some assistance to the community. And then the last one, I don't know what the heck happened. I think most of you follow my the department's Facebook page. One day it just disappeared. I've been trying to get it back. I can't. So it's very weird. So unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to start a new one. So anybody that's listening, if you liked my last one, please like the new one too. I was at 999 likes. I kid you not. I was so close to 1,000, so I was so excited. But I have no idea what happened. It just ceased to exist. I can't.
Just call.
Yeah, call Facebook.
It's
not
Meta.
Facebook anymore.
Yeah, right, it's something different. But that's all I've got.
The same map.
So the Parks and Rec page is gone?
Yes, the one that I created, like the second day I worked.
Isn't this it? I guess there's not much out here.
It's new one. He just created it.
Oh, you have already created it?
Yeah, I've
Oh, sorry, I
created
thought
it.
you said go create it.
No, I haven't. I've just been like wishfully thinking the other one will just show up so I don't have to do much with this new one. But
Just wait around.
but anyway, so Facebook, right? That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, our next meeting is, anything else for the good of the cause?
Yes, I do have a couple of things to share. One, I participated in the Citizens Academy, which was a 4-week academy, and we heard great presentations from the city manager, from the city clerk, from police and fire, from Public Works, and from Jason. And one of the comments, actually more than one of the comments that came out of that 4-week session at the end of Jason's presentation was, you are such an enthusiastic person for parks and rec in Polk City. And I thought that was a great comment, being on the Parks Commission, to hear from citizens in Polk City. So Jason, just kudos to you for that. And I agree. You're very enthusiastic, and we appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
The other thing, very quickly, I've always kept the commission up to, are apprised of what's going on with community visioning. I did mention that I did put a thing on Facebook because in cooperation with the city manager, we were able to get 2 of the Welcome to Polk City signs and the Leonard Park sign landscape professional. And that's a great accomplishment for community visioning and for the city, and we're hoping that we'll see the rest of those happening in the future. And the other thing is the Community Visioning Murals Committee came before the council, the last council meeting, and asked for their support for us moving ahead to issue a RFP, request for proposal, for to artists for 2 murals in Polk City. One on the big wall on South 3rd Street, which is quite a long wall, and the other one on what I call the north side of the community center along Broadway. So there are 4 subcommittees working as part of community visioning, and 2 of them have had some pretty nice moves forward. And a big thank you to Monica because she wrote the RFP for the murals, and I may have taken her thunder.
Thank you. I have a little prayer.
That's it.
And those were really wonderful ideas to bring up to the county. I mean, those are no-brainers as far as funding goes. Just to beautify, just anything to make this a destination for people that, as we finish trails, go by murals. You know, those different things people do remember. So, nice work.
And the hope is we'll have proposals back before the end of the year from artists so that we can start fundraising.
Anything else for the good of the cause? All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
A motion.
Second?
Seconded.
I do move to adjourn.
Might as well.
All those in favor of adjourning until December 6th?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Closed.
If you want to stay all night.